Alright, we're back with another season. I don't think my win rate in this one is reflective of like how good the deck is. I played Centurion. Um, there were a lot of games I lost that I really had no reason to be losing. But that happens. Say Libby. But regardless, let's talk about the deck. So I am notably right now not playing the bystials. Um, and that's because I got unlucky against tenpai one too many times. I do think the bystials are really good, and I think they're 100% worth playing when you aren't expecting to play against a tenpai matchup a billion times over. Because they do exist and you have to play against it. I just found it was way better to play a bunch of hand drops. This is also, by the way, where like, you'll be like, why are you playing Dimensional Barrier? You play Synchros yourself. What would frequently happen is sometimes you just don't open like multiple starters and you get hand trapped, and if you open Thrust, you can just search Dimensional Barrier against Yubel. Dimensional Barrier stops the Phantom of Yubel, stops them from summoning it, or if it's already on the field, it stops them from activating the effect. It can stop powerful synchros from obviously your tenpai opponent, which was the idea, is that I just don't want to die. Like, it doesn't really matter if I need to accrue immediate advantage on that turn. It matters that I don't die to the tenpai player. Because if I don't die, getting another turn, getting to make Blazer on the next turn, that should be enough. This was fine. I do think you basically have to play Talents if you're playing Thrust. Because I think when you're going second, you just need a good target. And I think this is good enough. I was happy with it. This won me games, which is all it really needed to do. Yeah. That's talents. That's tactics. That's the main thing I'd say. Just like, it's best of one, it's awkward, and I'm just trying to find cards that I think are going to help me not die when I only have like two Primaras in hand. I normal summon them and I get Veilered. Now there's an obvious weakness to this, which is sometimes they just draw like 3 Imperm instead, and like sometimes you actually have a hand that can play through multiple, but not like the third one, so you'll like end on like Auxilla and nothing else. Which is another reason, which once again, this is why I took the bystials off. Because I love the bystials, and I think they're great in a lot of scenarios. But not in the tenpai. Just not in the tenpai. I wanted to make more room for hand traps, and I thought, where can I do that? And the obvious answer is the bystials. I don't need to do that. I just need not die. Gamma was solid, I suppose. I don't know how I like really feel about this card. But I was playing it because I wanted like extra outs. Also, notably, I'm not playing Called by the Grave. I think it's just not worth it to be playing Called by the Grave. I don't think the Ginroku lines weren't common enough for me to be like, okay, I want to play Called by. I think you have enough ways to like play around Maxi in general to be like, you know what, you just don't have to worry about it. Like I said, the entire point of this deck is to hard draw interaction via hand, like just hard draw hand traps. Try to get your combo through, and just sit on the hand traps. I think normally, like I said before, I think normally it's better to play bystials than to play this deep on hand traps, but like I think ghost ogreing the field spell so your other hand traps stay live is pretty important. Just things like that. I never adjusted the extra deck. Dispater, do I have a way to even hypothetically make Dispater? Wait. A tuner and a non-tuner dragon. Hear me out. This is a tuner. Hypothetically, I could make Dispater. I don't know what I'm banishing. But hypothetically, this extra deck is not optimized at all. There's a level 12 synchro that's not in here that I think a lot of people play, but I also don't think it comes up very frequently. Where is it? It is notably a UR, which is why I'm not playing it. I just couldn't be bothered to craft. It didn't seem worth it. Similarly, I think like a second Cosmic Blazar is something you can consider. Chaos Archfiend, by the way. Big fan of this card. But also you don't actually need to play it either. Typhon actually helped me win one game. I still think Typhon isn't like as strong of a card as it should be. With the exception probably if you're playing like exactly Sky Striker. But you know. The Link ones are just here for SP reasons. Those came up and then suddenly stopped coming up. Like, it just stopped being relevant. This Dark, I don't think I've ever made this Dark. It's also here for SP reasons, but also for, like, a bunch of the monsters that are here. I don't even have anything I'd tell you I'd replace it with. Chaos Angel is pretty specific when you don't have the bystials. But, like, most of your things are pretty specific. So I don't think it's, like, a big deal. I didn't read into the Synchro 8 pool very hard, because I wasn't feeling like the deck was ever, like, lacking or, like, needing anything else. But you do feel the lack of bystials, in particular, not being able to make, Barone de Fleur is notable. I think if Barone was banned, you'd notice not being able to make this pattern. I think you'd make this pattern instead, and it'd be pretty similar. But I don't know that there's any Synchro 8s that would make me be like, ooh, you know, I gotta do this. I guess hypothetically you could do funny things with like Cyber / Harpy Lady. Which I guess would be very funny. Packbit is another thing that you could do. But none of this is like mandatory. I don't really have too much to say. My non-engine, I think, is just the best non-engine right now, or what I felt was good. Valor and Imperm are both just really solid against, like, normal decks. Just make sure you know where to, like, interrupt them. Maxi is Maxi, but also, I would legitimately, like, this card does not do anything against tenpai. It's very frustrating. But it's like fine. In a situation where you can already survive, Maxi is great. But you do have to be able to survive. So, but at that point, usually when you survive, you're fine anyways. Then we have Gamma. I'm playing Gamma. I just think it's like really powerful when you're going second. You can destroy a card. If you're going first and they hand trap you and you get the Gamma, your opponent can instantly surrender. And if they don't, you can also hand rip them for a second card because it's not super toxic when you get to go first and then Gamma your opponent. Once there is actually a relevant Synchro 8 that I'm not playing that I do think you should if you're playing Gamma, which is Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, because I think you should be playing this because I think a targeted negate in Baron de Fleur is better than a random hand rip. But Omega's graveyard effect came up for me. Like, I shuffled something back into the deck. Like, I made my Omega, went to the graveyard. I forget why. I think I synchroed it off for Auxilla in that game. And then I shuffled back Omega and a different extra deck card, which let me recycle them and use them. And it was actually, like, just really powerful. Omega's a good card. I wish it was a hard once per turn for the banish effect, but that doesn't have anything to do with this specific deck. In a world where you're playing bystials, you could hypothetically make Omega hand rip, dispatter, bring back, hand rip again, because once again, really fun and cool interactions. But regardless, moving on. Ghost Ogre, it hits the tenpai field spell, so you can affect them in main 1 with your other interactions. During the battle phase, sometimes they'll have lines where Ghost Ogre will stop them from killing you. I actually think when they don't have the Synchro 10 on board, that the kind of gameplay that happens in the battle phase until they summon the 10, it can actually be like really interesting. The problem is there's a 10 that just reads your opponent can't play the game, and that's it. That's the whole thing, and it's miserable. Just very sad to play against. I think this is good. It's important for like getting rid of field spell and stuff. But yeah, I crafted a royal one when I made 3 of them. That was pretty cool. 3 Ash Blossom because, of course, it's Ash. It will stop Max C. It can stop the quick play spell. It can generally hit like draw or search power. Engine, not really going to talk about. I'm playing Gargoyle. And not Emeth, because originally I was playing it in large part because it's a dark for bystials, which would come up on occasion. But also, there are some hands that get you Auxilla into and Blazar on turn 1, which is just like really nice. And those are actually the hands where like having a second Blazar in the extra deck would be like super good. But also that's like so uncommon because firstly your hand needs to do it, and secondly, beyond that, also your opponent can't interact with you. Because if they do interact with you, that's it. Like you're not going to be able to do it unless it's a really, really specific hand. But it's hard to do that anyways, as is. But if you have 2 Blazar in rotation, like, you're crazy winning that game all the time. That was just a little bit about Engine. So Gargoyle will come back to the hand and being able to be summoned from hand can be relevant for making 2 12s on turn 1. Talents, I was originally playing 3 talents and was going to do hand rip stuff, and then I realized that Thrust, Intellect, and Barrier to Live was going to be much more consistent, and it was. So that's what I was playing. When you go second, this is still solid. The only card here that's questionable is Dimensional Barrier, and it is very questionable. Not too sure what to say about this. It's not a bad card, I suppose. And then we have Thrust. Which just search out talents usually for going second, or Dimensional Barrier for going first. I just think it's good enough against everything that's not Snake Eyes, and I haven't been running into any Snake Eyes. Bonfire for consistency. We don't have any like non-engine like bystials or anything that can sort of pseudo play the game on by themselves. So we have Bonfire instead. 3 field spell, 3 oath. I'm playing Bonds. I think Bonds is better than Wake Up. Wake Up has like some situational utility where you can make a 12 when you wouldn't otherwise be able to under like specifically Dimension Shifter. But I just don't. Having played the deck more, I just don't think it's worth it, and I think Bonds is a better card that basically offers you 2 effects, where Wake Up only offers you 1, unless you're playing Emmet, but I'm not playing Emmet. Or if you want to send Phalanx to the graveyard, but I would much rather set Phalanx, and if I don't have it, I'd rather draw a card with a Legatia. Which, those were the games, by the way, when I like having 2 Legatia in this deck, for when you turn 1 want to make Legatia. But I don't really advise doing that with tenpai running around, because this protects your face-up spell and traps, which means your back row is a lot harder to interact with, although generally that can just not be a big issue. But it basically stops them from using Raigeki and Harpy's Feather Duster, because Primera will protect your back row. So there's that. But I haven't seen them, like, running that very much, so you can, like, wait for them to commit to the board. And then Imperm, good hand trap, and that's about it. I talked about the extra deck a little. This is not very well refined, to be quite frank. I made these 2. I don't think I made Baron de Flor since I cut the bystials. Same with Dissipator. Same with like Chaos Angel. That's just like how the numbers work out. But also, like, it wasn't a big deal. Like, just playing with the 12s, and is enough. And I never even really had to make Omega either. A pop and a draw is, like, good enough with the hand traps and everything. Typhon comes up in some situations, which is nice. And then these help with SP Living Light, which will come up and be nice interruption, and Darkest help with SP. That's it. I enjoyed the deck. It had a 63% win rate, 63.4. I went 26 and 22 against tenpai specifically, which you'll note is a positive win rate. You go first every time, and you'll win most of your games. I think several of those I could have won and been like 28 and 20 or something like that. But I'm bad sometimes in misplay. Overall, I went like 80 and 46. And like I said, I started off playing this deck really poorly, and then I got better as time went on. I do think that this is how I'd play the deck if I'm expecting to play tenpai frequently. Just in my experience, they have so much non-engine that just sort of stops you, and you want to have hand traps that keep you from dying. I'm not sure about the Dimensional Barrier package. It might make more sense to play, like, Black Goat Laughs. But that's also a UR, and I can't be bothered to craft it. So those are my thoughts. Yeah. The other thing with Black Goat is if you draw it going first, you can pitch it to stand up if you don't have a better pitch, and it has a graveyard effect. So there's that too. Black Goat is probably better than Dimensional Barrier, and it probably keeps you alive. But I haven't tried it. Also, it doesn't turn off your own synchro monsters on your opponent's turn, which this one does. Alright. That's been my climb. This game was very funny because I activated Bonfire, they ashed, and then I gammaed, and then they surrendered immediately. This tier game was a grind, but a grind in which I was favored. They went first, and I stopped some key plays. I don't think anything was too fascinating about it. This is a well-known deck. It's strong. I don't have any further particular insight on it, except I don't think playing Bystials is good against exactly tenpai, and I think tenpai is too popular to not respect it. And most of the ones I've been seeing have been playing a ton of hand traps and a few board breakers. And I think it's just worthwhile to play the hand traps that are probably going to, like, stop them from normal summoning, Hydra and immediately getting a field spell and owning you. Alright. I hope you enjoyed. Later.